It's your boy Brad, hashtag Think Nashville, Think Brad. As you may be aware, I am a real estate professional, and I'm about to tell you some things that most real estate professionals, aka realtors, won't. Not because they're bad people, most of them aren't, but because there's a version of this industry that is built around getting you to the closing table as fast as possible. And some uncomfortable truths slow down that process. I'd rather you know what you're walking into before you sign anything. So, today, no filter, here we go. Firstly, flood zones are more common than you think. Nashville floods. It's not a rare event, it's quite frankly a recurring one. Most people remember 2010 and the craziness that went with it. That was catastrophic, historic, and over $13 billion in damage. We are in a river basin. Water moves through here all the time underneath our feet. The problem is that the flood zone maps are not always up to date, and a lot of buyers don't pull FEMA's flood data until they're already under contract and emotionally committed to a house. Here's what I tell every buyer. Before you fall in love with a property, look it up on FEMA's flood map service. It takes about 60 seconds. If it's in a special flood hazard area, Zone A or Zone AE, your lender will require flood insurance, and that cost can be significant. We're talking anywhere from a few $100s to several thousand a year depending on the property. Zillow does a decent job of tracking flood zones. Some of the most desirable neighborhoods in Nashville, parts of Germantown, Bells Bend, areas along the Cumberland, and Harpeth have flood exposure. That's not a deal breaker, but it's a number that has to be in your budget. Always find out what the annual premium is. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. And here's the part nobody talks about. Even if you're not in a mapped flood zone, you can still flood. I know a lot of people who have had water in properties that technically weren't in a flood zone. Also, property taxes hit different here, more than you expect. Tennessee has no state income tax. That's amazing. That's real, and it's genuine financial advantage for a lot of people relocating here. But the way that gets communicated sometimes implies the taxes in general are low in Tennessee, and that's where some people get surprised. Property taxes in Davidson County have gone up substantially the last few years. They're way too high because the assessed values have followed the appreciation. If a home was assessed at $250,000 5 years ago and is now worth $450,000, that assessment catches up, and your annual tax bill is going to reflect it. The reassessment cycle in Tennessee is every 4 to 6 years, depending on the county. So if you're buying in a year when reassessments just happened, you're probably fine for a while. If you're buying a couple years before the next cycle, your taxes could step up in a meaningful way before your second or third year in the home. On a $450,000 home in Davidson County, you're typically looking at somewhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a year in property tax, roughly 0.75% of 1%. That's not alarming on its own, but if you're building your budget on a $200,000 figure because someone mentioned low taxes in Tennessee, that gap does matter. I would encourage you to do the actual math for a specific county and specific property. Metro Nashville, Williamson County, Rutherford County, they all have different rates. HOA documents deserve a real attorney. A lot of new construction and planned communities going up around Nashville have HOAs, and a lot of buyers sign up on the HOA documents without actually reading them. That's a big mistake. Look, I understand why. They're long, they're written in legal language. By the time you get them, usually a week into a contract, and you just want to close, but don't make the mistake of not reading them. Here's the problem. HOA rules vary wildly. Some are totally reasonable. Common area maintenance, basic standards. Others have restrictions on rentals that can completely kill an investment strategy. So if you're buying for investment, make sure that you know you can rent it from day one. Also, some have pending special assessments, meaning the HOA is about to charge every homeowner an extra lump sum for a repair or capital project that isn't in the monthly dues yet. Before you close on any property with an HOA, you have 30 days in Tennessee to review those documents and back out. Use that time. Hire a real estate attorney, PS your title company should have one, or if not, for a few $100 to review the financials and meeting minutes. Look specifically for deferred maintenance, litigation, and reserve fund levels. A healthy HOA has reserves. An underfunded HOA eventually raises dues or levies assessments. I've seen buyers walk into a community where the HOA was 6 months away from a $20,000 per unit special assessment for a parking structure repair. Nobody advertised that in the listing. Next, new construction is not move-in perfect. Nashville has an enormous amount of new construction right now. Infill builds, master plan communities, townhome rows in previously industrial neighborhoods. It is everywhere. And the appeal is obvious. Everything is new, warranties, no one else has lived there. You get to pick your finishes sometimes. But here's what I constantly see. Buyers assuming new construction means no issues. It doesn't. Builder quality varies significantly. Some of the volume builders moving fast through large subdivisions are cutting corners. HVAC systems sized wrong, grading issues that cause drainage problems, landscaping that looks finished but isn't properly established. Punch list items that were supposed to be done before closing that takes months to actually get done post-closing. That'll drive you crazy. You're going to want to get a third-party home inspector on new construction. Get the inspection. I cannot say this loudly enough. Because builders will tell you, you don't need it because of their internal quality control. That is not a good reason to skip it. Also, builder incentives are real, but read them carefully. Rate buydowns, design center credits, closing cost contributions, these can be genuinely valuable. Sometimes those incentives are contingent on using the builder's preferred lender, which may not be offering you the best overall rate. Run the full rate comparison before you commit. I've got plenty of great lenders I can help you compare. The preferred lender is not always the best. Most times it is, not always. Also, traffic is a deciding factor, not an afterthought. Most people look at Nashville from the outside picture, a mid-south southern city with manageable traffic. That is not what it is anymore. I-24, I-65, I-440, these are all the big highways here in town. The morning window runs roughly 7 to 9, the afternoon 4 to 7, and it doesn't take much of an incident to turn into a 20-minute commute until 1 hour. For better or worse, Nashville does not have a big public transit system. There is no light rail. The bus system exists, but it's not going to solve a suburban commute problem. That is a real infrastructure gap in this city, and it's been a gap for a long time. What this means practically, where you go choose to live matters more here in a city with good transit. If you work in Brentwood and you're looking at a home in Hendersonville because the price is right, that commute is going to be a bear. Map that commute at 8 in the morning on Tuesday morning before you make that decision. Communities that command a price premium here aren't just more expensive because of the zip code. They're expensive because of the drive time they save. That math is real. The up-and-coming neighborhood pitch. Every city has neighborhoods that are perpetually described as up-and-coming. Nashville is no different. Some of those calls have been right. East Nashville was genuinely undervalued for a long time, and the people that bought there did extremely well if they bought early enough. Same thing with parts of Wedgwood, Houston, the Nation, Sylvan Park, etc. But for every one of these, there are areas that have been up and coming for 15 years and still haven't arrived yet, and quite frankly, may never arrive. When an agent tells you a neighborhood is about to pop, ask them specifically what is driving that. Is there a concrete development plan? Is there an infrastructure investment? Is there already foot traffic and business activity, or is it all just potential? A lot of times you'll find out a lot of agents are just blowing smoke. Also, speculation on a neighborhood is a real estate investment strategy, and sometimes it works, but it's not the same as you buying in a proven location. Make sure you know which one you're doing. Okay, so now we've come to the end of the video. My take on all this. None of this is meant to scare you off here in Nashville. If it were, I still wouldn't be here and I wouldn't have built my business around this market. But I believe the most valuable thing I can do for a buyer is make sure they go into a purchase clear-eyed. The flood exposure, the tax trajectory, the HOA fine print, the builder quality, the commute, these are all knowable things. You can account for all of them if you know what to ask, but the buyers who feel burned in any market are the ones who almost never the ones who did the work. They're the ones who skip steps because they were excited, or because someone told them not to worry about it, or because they had a terrible agent. That's not going to happen here. Do the work, ask the hard questions, and work with someone who will answer them honestly. If you have questions about a specific property, neighborhood, or situation here in Middle Tennessee, reach out, text, email, DM. I'm always around. As always, think Nashville, think Brad. We would love to hear from you and to work with you. Make no bones about it. Also, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I really asked for the subscription part, but we're working to get the channel up to 2,000 subs as quickly as possible. Think Nashville, think Brad. See you soon.